Welcome to the Power of Charms podcast and interview series. I'm Kay McDonald with Charity Charms, and today my very special guest is Celina Gorre from WomenHeart. She's the executive director of an amazing organization that is helping women nationwide with support for their hearts. And it's one of the few, and I think the only one that is specifically geared to women. Celina, can you give us a background and tell us all about WomenHeart and your mission?
Well, first of all, Kate, thank you so much for having us. It is always a pleasure to talk to folks out there, especially women who understand the importance of addressing the number one killer of women today, which is heart disease. And that's the reason why WomenHeart exists and why it was founded in 1999 by 3 different women who had their own challenges in getting a diagnosis through the healthcare system. And they decided to band together to make women's voices heard. And as a result, WomenHeart has now, for the last 22 years, been the country's only patient-centered organization, really focused on supporting, educating, and advocating for women living with heart disease, but also those who are at risk, because we know that you're one diagnosis away from being, from going from living with it, or from being at risk to living with it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I actually first connected with WomenHeart with one of the founders, Nancy Loving, when they first started. And
Right.
I was very, very interested in it because I have a history of heart disease in my family, never thinking that I would actually have to use it. But now I'm, over 60 and have AFib, and, that kind of develops sometimes. And WomenHeart has been a wonderful resource. I mean, if you've got questions or whatever, you can go to the website and get some instant answers, which is really, really wonderful. Tell me, what are some of the common myths about women and heart disease?
Yeah, it is one of the things that continues to baffle me, and one of the things that gets me up every day to do this job. The common myths are this: if you're young, you don't need to worry about heart disease. And these days, young is very relative. But in our class of 2019, for example, in terms of the volunteers that have come to be trained through WomenHeart at the Mayo Clinic, our youngest attendee was 27 years old. So we have them throughout the range of age groups for women. So, heart disease is something that we all should care about and pay attention to. I think the number 2 most common myth, which I find fascinating, is that breast cancer is the number one killer of women. And I think part of the reason for that misunderstanding is that the breast cancer community has done a really great job of raising the awareness for the need for a mammogram and making sure that women understand that, there are risks involved. And now that we have, a good genetic test to see if you have, if you've got the gene, I think, so there's been a lot of scientific advancement in breast cancer, which is why I think partly why there is such great awareness around it. But heart disease kills far more women than breast cancer does, and yet the awareness of that is far lower. So sort of the, it's a little bit turned around in terms of where the awareness is versus where the facts are.
Sure.
In that. And then I think just the third really important myth that we need to bust is that heart attack symptoms are the same in men and women. And that, in fact, could be true, but it's very often not true, which is why heart attacks in women are so often misdiagnosed or diagnosed, there's a delay in the diagnosis.
Sure. Well, what are some of the differences between when a man has a heart attack and a woman has a heart attack?
Yeah, so I think, if we look historically at research in heart disease, the majority of that research has been done on men. And so when we record symptoms, what we think of as the classic symptoms of heart attacks, we think of chest pain, shortness of breath, a pain, pain that shoots down the left arm. And as a woman, you may have those symptoms, but you may also have generalized extreme fatigue. You may have, this feeling, they call it this feeling of impending doom. It might feel like you're having a panic attack. I mean, there's so many, and so that's why oftentimes women will say, oh, I'm just tired, or I've just had a long day. And as a consequence, women themselves may delay going into the ER because they're not recognizing those symptoms as symptoms of a heart attack.
That's frustrating because it's so important for women to know the signs. It's so important for women to be educated. And like you said, women in heart disease isn't getting the exposure that it needs to, considering
Correct.
that it is the number one killer of heart disease. Can you tell me some of the special ways that WomenHeart has outreach to get the word out around the country?
Absolutely. So one of the most important ways that we do that is through all of our social media platforms. We always have a awareness campaign around Heart Month, which we just celebrated. But we also use the voices and the stories of our champions, and that's what we call our volunteers, to talk about, how they may have not had any symptoms of heart disease and then all of a sudden had a heart attack. And I think their stories really kind of bring home the idea that you should really look after your heart health, even if you don't, you're not having you don't have heart disease in that moment. They bring home the idea that everyone should know what their blood pressure is and make sure that they're addressing high blood pressure if they have it. Bring home the idea that you should know your cholesterol numbers, because again, these increase. The higher our high blood pressure is, the higher our cholesterol is. This increases our chances of having a heart event. And so, we communicate that through our messaging. But I think most impactfully, most powerfully, we communicate that through the stories that our champions tell to a variety of audiences, from groups of employees in a company, to churches, to health fairs. We have our champions address a multitude of different audiences.
Yeah, when I've been at several events here in Phoenix where I've seen WomenHeart set up, and telling people all about what you do and advocating. That's been a little difficult the last year for all of us. But would you say that your outreach on social media and your storytelling has actually increased because of that?
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, we have definitely sort of improved and increased our footprint in the social media space. But we also made sure that we were continuing to provide education to the community. And so we kicked off last year a webinar series that we called Heart Talks. And it was specifically to talk about the intersection between heart disease in women and COVID-19. Everything from, what you should do to protect yourself, to whether or not you should go to your doctor's visits. And now, we're having conversations with champions about vaccination and the ins and outs of that. Right. So we try to be relevant and to go along the journey with the champions, not just with their heart disease, but also in dealing with sort of the pandemic that we've been dealing with for the last year.
And you have a personal connection with heart disease yourself through your mother, is that correct?
Well, so my mom passed away when she was 39. She did not die of heart disease. She died of colon cancer. But the loss of somebody so young to our family was, as you can imagine, was extremely impactful. And when the opportunity to join WomenHeart came up, I thought that it would be a wonderful way to have an impact to decrease the number of women that we would lose to like the biggest killer of women, in our country. And as a consequence, maybe I could prevent, families from losing their loved ones early in life, earlier than they should. And I think that is the legacy that my mother has left behind. My sisters and I have two sisters, and the three of us all work in some version of healthcare. And I think that's sort of a promise that we made to her, to our mom, to just be helpful to other families so that they don't suffer in the same way that we unfortunately did.
Yeah. It's reading your bio and everything. It sounds like you're right in the perfect place that you need to be right now. You're well traveled and you have an extensive educational background. Can you share with us a little bit about Celina and why WomenHeart is the perfect fit for you?
Oh, I would love to, Kay. It has been a long and winding road, as has been sung about, and what feels so right about WomenHeart today is that it is at once an organization that's trying to do really big things at the national level, to be strategic in advocating for women with heart disease, and be local and to have an impact in the lives of individuals. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's a really difficult sort of stretch to cover. But I think, as you rightly suggest, that my experiences throughout the years have in a way prepared me for this role. I have worked with the United Nations in Africa. At the time, that was working on HIV and AIDS prevention. I have worked to help countries who are low and middle income countries better deal with the rise of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Things like hypertension in Ghana and diabetes in the Philippines. And try to bring the resources from organizations like the NIH and the European Commission to fund that kind of work. But I've also had, incredible mentors that have helped me along the way, one-on-one. So I know the power of connection. Mm-hmm. So WomenHeart kind of brings all of that together, thinking at the very high level strategically, while at the same time knowing the importance of connection and support and kind of ongoing community building, which I think is really at the core of WomenHeart.
Absolutely. I want to ask you, you are Filipino, is that correctly?
I am.
Okay. So you referred to yourself as a woman of color when I was asking you questions. And have there been challenges? Because being an executive director of a charity is a wonderful, wonderful position and well-deserved. And you have, so much education experience, but I've got to ask, has that been a challenge for you?
It's interesting because I think, I can probably, if I widen my lens a little bit, I can probably take in more of the challenges in terms of, I remember a few times I would walk into the room and then somebody would say, oh, so where's the executive director, or where's the CEO? And I'm like, right here, I'm right here, it's me. And I have to do exactly as you just did. I have to laugh because it's, if I dwell too much in that, then it sort of becomes something else, right? So there's that, and that I experienced very much when I was in my role as a senior advisor in Africa. Here I was, relatively young Asian woman, showing up in Africa, telling 65-year-old African men how to run their country, which didn't go very well. But one of the lessons I learned, and this is one of my coping strategies, in dealing with the positions that I have been lucky to be in, is you have to learn the lesson of you may not be the right messenger for your message. and that needs to be okay. And
Mm.
so, you know, over time, I have learned how to amplify my voice. I have learned how to relate to a multitude of different people and levels of seniority and authority. But sometimes, you know, to be effective, what I did actually in Angola was I recruited a mentor of mine who himself was an older African male to be the messenger to get my point across.
Very smart.
You know, often being the speechwriter, if you will,
Sure.
right? To say, here, you know, this is what I need you to tell them. And then boom, you know, they did it. So I think, you know, I often ask myself this question: do I want to be right, or do I want to be effective?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes being effective meant stepping back from what I thought was my role to, you know, to play in a particular situation.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've had lots of challenges, but you've overcome them. And what is your tip for making the world a better place? What is?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, you know, find what makes you tick. And the way I think about that for myself is, what is your superpower?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you draw your energy? And then what in turn can you share with other people? So when you find that superpower, then I think you share that with as many people as you can, you know, in your life.
And yours is?
And mine is, I think I connect to people, Kay, where it's person to person, you know, it's people to people. It's not title to title. It's not degree to degree, you know, it's just people to people. And I love bringing myself to my job, to my friendships, to my relationships, to podcasts. And, you know, that's how I think we make the world a better place, showing up as ourselves and connecting on a real kind of one-on-one basis.
Are there any challenges, Celina, that happened in your life that you think have made you the person that you are today?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, one of the I mean, besides losing my mom, which obviously was a real defining moment for me and for us as our family. Yeah. I would say that the things that I keep coming back to in my mind that also define me was coming from a family of really strong women. Both of my grandmothers were by my side. I still have this image in my mind to this day. I was 5 years old. I cracked my chin open because I jumped in a pool and I kind of hit my chin. And so I needed to get stitches. And I had one grandmother on either side of me holding my hand. And that image to this day, that image carries me forward anytime I think I need to, you know, to bring my grandmother's kind of powers to bear on, you know, a stressful situation. These women were, you know, very early on in my life said, go out there and get it. Go out there and knock this, you know, world on its, you know, on its behind. Go for it. Be curious and don't stop moving. You know, keep going. Don't stop moving. And, you know, I only realized recently how powerful that is to have come from women of their generation. They grew up in, you know, they were born in the 20s and 30s.
They had to garner strength from places that we don't have any idea about.
Had no idea. So talk about paving the path for future generations.
Absolutely.
And I'm convinced, you know, in addition to my mom, those two women shaped me to who I am today.
You told me one of your challenges too was physical, and that you love to do like yoga and things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you stay healthy.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, when I was growing up, I was definitely the weakest link among my siblings. My two sisters played basketball, was never that coordinated. And when I discovered rock climbing, when I was in graduate school, that was really the first time that I felt that I was proud of my physicality, and kind of really leaned into that, as well as spending time outdoors. And I am proudest of myself in the physical sense when I am successful outdoors. So whether that's, you know, camping or hiking or paddleboarding in the ocean, or sometimes in fact doing yoga outside, just sort of being comfortable in the outdoors is something that I'm so proud of from a, you know, from a physical standpoint.
That you've brought that into your life and made that a part of your life, which is so important. And then there's another thing that you and I really share in common is love of travel.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Now it sounds like you've been all over the world. Is there any place that you're dying to go? Because we haven't gotten to go anywhere for
I know. Kay, I am really, really chomping at the bit. I would say that, you know, on my wish list, I wish I could narrow it down to one, but I'm gonna take two of them.
Okay.
Three. Bhutan.
Oh.
I'm really desperate to go to Bhutan. The Galapagos, another place
that is on my list. Oh my gosh. Fast.
Really,
we have to do it fast.
I know. And then Iceland. There's something that's really intriguing about Iceland.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can pick up our travel soon. And, you know, the direction of our lives has definitely taken a new course over, you know, the last year or so. But since we're having this interview in March, hopefully by the summer, we'll all kind of be back to where we're at.
Fingers crossed.
One of the things that I like to ask my guests is if there's a significant symbol in their life that means something to them, because charms are symbols come to life, and yours is the Buddha head. Can you tell us why?
Yes. I started my first time meditating, that lasted all of 2 minutes because that's all I could do, you know, to sit still, was in 1999. So it's been a while now. And I have studied meditation in various forms. I spent a month on an ashram in India, studying yoga, but also studying meditation.
That's on my bucket list.
And you'll love it, Kay. Oh my goodness, it's a great place. But the Buddha head is something that immediately calms me. So now when I meditate in the morning, I will set up my Buddha head and light a candle, and just watching the way the flame sort of flickers and dances across the face of the Buddha is something. There's just something so incredibly calming about that. I will though put a caveat in there that not all Buddha heads are the same. So there are some that you know really instill peace in me, and others that, you know, I would have to pass on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I actually have a Buddha charm here that I wear. So I thought that was
lovely.
Fun. Yeah. I also too wanted to just show our audience the beautiful bracelet that we did. This is WomenHeart logo. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yes. And this is a sterling silver bracelet created with your heart. So
yes, we love it.
You have used these for donor gifts and, you know, fundraisers and things like that.
Absolutely.
So we're excited to be a part of that. So what other words of wisdom do you have for us today before we close? I know this has been a challenging time for charities. You've had to do a lot of things to pivot and change. I know you've got upcoming events and things like that. Is there, and we will send everybody to your website, which is WomenHeart.org. Is there anything more that you would like for people to know about WomenHeart and the work that you're doing?
You know, I will share with you the words of our champions, because I think they say it best. What I hear time and time again from them is this. They say, my doctor saved my heart, but WomenHeart saved my life. Oh. And to me, that just really crystallizes what WomenHeart is all about. That we are not doctors, so we're not doing the medical work. We are doing the heart work. Mm-hmm. We are doing the connection work. We are doing the support work. The pandemic, the epidemic that WomenHeart is trying to address is the lack of support as women go through their heart journey. So there is an epidemic of aloneness. You know, women, when they're first diagnosed, feel incredibly alone.
And it kind of like a stigma a little bit, isn't it? It's like
yes.
they're afraid to talk about it.
Yes.
I know that's kind of the way that I felt, but it's been so nice to find a community of kindred women that I can go on and ask questions and find resources and everything. So, you know, WomenHeart.org does so much great work, and it's so important. And I really want to help spread the word and let everybody know that you guys are there as a resource, and highly encourage people to use it and spread the word. And if there's, again, anybody that's interested, we encourage you to go to WomenHeart.org and become connected with the community. It's a fabulous resource and service.
Well, thank you, Kay. Yes, that is certainly what we want, is women to come and find their peers, you know, and be able to exhale and be able to be seen and understood. I think that's, you know, a lot of what I also hear is you just don't understand until you've been through it.
Right.
And that's certainly what is sort of at the core of what makes these connections that they make with each other so strong.
Right. And knowledge is power too. So when you're sitting here in a vacuum, especially now, it's so nice to be able to have knowledge and a community at your fingertips.
And knowledge from I need to say this, from credible sources.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Google can be sometimes helpful and often
very scary.
Very scary. Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly
Dr.
right.
Google, I hadn't heard that one before. Oh, well, Celina, I thank you so much for your time today. You know, as a business owner at Charity Charms, we've loved working with you as a charity client, but we also just really, really value your mission and your service. And thank you so much. It's been nice getting to know Celina, the executive director.
It's been fun. It's been great fun. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.